right, join me on page 110 in the Social Studies textbook. The picture you're looking at for this video is a picture of a ziggurat, which we'll be learning about today. Go ahead and follow along on page 110, measurements. Growing city-states needed larger farms to feed all the people. Because of this, land became more important than ever to the early Sumerians. City officials wanted to know how much land each farmer used so that they could keep accurate records. Farmers too wanted to know how much land they had so that they could clearly mark the boundaries of their farms. These needs led the Sumerians to develop standard measurements of land. So as people started living closer together, more and more people living closer together in these city-states, all of a sudden issues of whose land is it, how much land do I own, started becoming important because you were living so close together. Okay, continuing. One measure of land area was an iku, also known as the ikum, meaning the field. An iku equaled about 36,600 square feet. The idea of the present-day acre, which equals 43,560 square feet, comes from the iku. So they were measuring land, and then we adopted some of their ideas, and we used a pretty close equivalent to mean our acre. Excuse me. Okay, continuing on 110. Sumerians also developed standard units of measurement for weight and volume, including the quart. They used these units to measure crop harvests and to conduct trade. Farmers no longer had to guess how much wheat or barley they were exchanging for a plow or other product. So again, as trade becomes more predominant, all of a sudden you need to know exactly how much you're trading. So they came up with standardized units of weight and volume. Okay, continuing. Measurements required a carefully planned number system. Sumerians based their number system on the number 60. Our division of time into hours, minutes, and seconds came from this system. So again, we see something else that we got from this ancient civilization. 60 seconds we have as a minute. 60 minutes is 1 hour. So we took their whole number system was based off 60 as well. The customary measurement doesn't really have a base unit, but if we look at the metric system, it's based on units of 10. Okay, continuing on 110. The Sumerians even found a way to measure time. By about 2100 BC, the Sumerians counted off days in a year using a 360-day calendar. So again, very similar to the calendar we currently use, which uses 365 days to be a year. Okay, page 111, building. Because southern Mesopotamia had few trees, people used the resource they had plenty of for building, mud. The Sumerians formed bricks out of mud, let them dry, and then used them to build everything from houses to large temples. Most Sumerians lived in a simple, flat-roofed mud brick houses. Groups of houses were built close together, all facing an open court. Their thick walls kept them cool in the summer and warm in the winter. So you can see in this paragraph how they used the materials around them to build their homes to be comfortable. They made thicker walls, and those thicker walls allowed them to be cool in the summer and warm in the winter. Okay, continuing. Kings and other people of high rank lived in larger houses of 2 or more stories. Artists made beautiful clay tile designs to decorate the walls of the houses. The largest and tallest building in every city-state was the Ziggurat. This temple developed from the simple one-room temples of the Ubaid culture. And you can see here in this picture, this is a ziggurat that still remains standing to this day. So you can just imagine an entire city-state surrounding this ziggurat. Okay, continuing in your social studies book. In describing the city of Ur, archaeologist Leonard Woolley wrote, "The outstanding feature of the city Ur was the ziggurat, an artificial mountain." So meaning it looked almost like a man-made mountain in the midst of these smaller houses. Okay, continuing. Ziggurats grew as the wealth and power of cities grew. Builders constructed the mud brick ziggurat in layers. Some temples stood as high as 7-story buildings. At the top of each ziggurat stood a shrine for the city's special god. Palaces for kings and houses for priests often stood inside a wall that surrounded the ziggurat. Over time, the Sumerians began building smaller buildings along the outside wall of the ziggurat. Some were shops, others were workshops, and still others were homes. Many city-states also placed parks near the ziggurat. Soon the ziggurat and the area around it became the busy center of the city. Today, wind-eroded ruins are all that is left of these ancient buildings, and this is an example of one of those wind-eroded buildings. Okay, let's take a closer look. So we're on page 111 still, that purple box, a closer look at the ziggurat. Analyze illustrations. Some historians believe that ziggurats were built to represent mountains. Others think that ziggurats were built as bridges between the heavens and earth. These mud brick structures towered over Sumerian cities. To build such a structure required teamwork and skills. Number 1. Builders constructed a ziggurat in layers, each one smaller than the one below it. 2. At the top of a ziggurat stood a shrine to a god. 3. Trees and bushes may have covered the ziggurat. 4. Smaller buildings stood along the outside wall of the ziggurat. And then the question to consider, why do you think ziggurats were built in layers? Okay, turning the page. Now we're on page 112. Okay, 112, follow along, transportation. Archaeologists found the world's oldest wheels in Mesopotamia, dating to about 3,500 BC. The Sumerians were the first to attach wheels to carts. They built 2-wheeled and 4-wheeled carts and chariots pulled by oxen or donkeys. So this is another example of an innovation by the Sumerians. For long journeys over land, traders in Mesopotamia led caravans of donkeys. Following the same paths over and over again, they established trade routes. For water travel, the Mesopotamians built various kinds of boats. Their earliest boat was shaped like a basket and built from reeds and covered by animal skins. A mast and sail were in the center of the boat, making it perhaps the world's first sailboat. People also built canoe-shaped boats that they guided with poles. So here's another example of innovation by the Sumerians, the people of Mesopotamia. Boats, including what may have been a sailboat. Okay, continuing, writing and literature. The Sumerians made the first known written records. The earliest known writing was found on a clay tablet in Kish that dates to about 3,500 BC. On the tablet are pictures that recorded trade. That recorded trade. So here's another innovation by the Sumerians, written records. Okay, continuing in the text. Hundreds of clay tablets found at the city of Uruk provided evidence that by 3100 BC, the Sumerians had developed a writing system. This system was based on cuneiform, or wedge-shaped symbols. Each of the 700 symbols stood for a different syllable and was based on a spoken sound. And here is some example of that cuneiform inscription. Okay, continuing in your textbook. At that time, few people knew how to write. Because of this, scribes, or people who recorded things for others, became important. Scribes used sharpened reeds to write in cuneiform on soft clay. And again, if you look up in the video, this picture that I'm using for the video is an actual cuneiform writing. Okay, continuing in your text. Writing made developments of the Sumerian government, economy, and society possible. So because of this invention of writing, government, economy, and society was possible. With writing, scribes, and turn to page 113, follow along to continue. Scribes recorded boundary lines, wars, lists of kings, and gifts to temples. They also kept records of trade and food supplies. Later, scribes recorded literature, writing down songs and stories. The most famous tale is the Epic of Gilgamesh, a story about legendary King Gilgamesh. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Continue along in your social studies, please.